Hello everybody, this is Johns Hopkins with Baltimore Heritage, and we're back with another of our 5-minute histories videos. And today I'm on the 1100 block of Sarah Ann Street, and we're going to talk about this block and alley houses near the corner of Saratoga and Carrollton, if you know where that is, just a little bit north of Franklin Square, if you know where that is. Today's video is going to be a little different though. For one, I'm going to be joined by Krista Green, the chair of Baltimore Heritage's Board of Directors, and one of the residents who lives here. And it's also going to be different because today this row of houses behind me is standing, but Baltimore City wants to tear it down. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But let's start with row houses. And if you're talking about row houses, you have to start with the leading expert on row houses, the late Dr. Mary Ellen Hayward. And Dr. Hayward, who literally wrote the book on row houses, says this about what she calls Baltimore's building small houses on narrow alley streets. She says that we began in the 1770s. That's 20 years before we even incorporated as a city. And we went all the way up through the early 1900s, say World War I. We probably borrowed the concept from Philadelphia, building houses on small streets between bigger ones. But we really embraced it and kept going with it. And we probably have, or at least had, more alley houses than any other city in the country. So the first thing is, well, what is an alley house? If you're not familiar with alley houses, the definition is a little bit elusive. There seems to be no one thing that can capture all of them, but most of them are pretty small, 1 and 2 stories. Most are 2 rooms deep. Most of them are on these small streets, say 20 feet wide or so. There used to be sort of a rule of thumb that if there was a car parked on an alley street, another car would not be able to get around it. But that doesn't hold true anymore. Think of smaller cars like smart cars and Peugeots, and some people park with their tires up on the curb, so you can get around cars parked on alley streets. In 1987, Baltimore City did a survey of alley houses. Back then, we had 6,000, so quite a lot. Probably had even more at our peak. But there are a lot of forces working against alley houses. One of the chief ones, urban renewal clearance policies. In the 1960s and 70s, all the way up through today, the clearance policies have been working against alley houses. In the 1960s and 70s in Harlem Park, here in West Baltimore, for example, hundreds of alley houses were demolished as part of an urban clearance program. In East Baltimore, in the Oliver neighborhood, again in the 1970s, dozens, maybe hundreds were demolished. We don't know exactly how many are left. In 1995 through 2000, Baltimore City cleared 4,000 or so vacant houses. A lot of them were alley houses. And then in the recent years, we've also been clearing vacant houses, and again, many of them alley houses. So we don't know exactly how many, but we're down to maybe a couple dozen rows, maybe a couple hundred houses probably, although again, we don't know for sure, but they are a rare endangered species. So let's talk about this row behind me, the 1100 block of Sarah Ann. Again, with Dr. Hayward's research, we know it was built in 1870, just after the Civil War. Excuse me, and it fits the alley house definition. This row is 2 stories high, except for one that's 3 stories. They're 2 rooms deep, no basements. The front doors are literally just a step from the sidewalk. And the street here, Sarah Ann, is definitely a narrow street. I don't even think it's 20 feet wide. So they are squarely alley houses. We know a lot about them from Mary Ellen's research, and we know that they are really special. They're special first because they're still standing. They are one of the very few rows, intact rows that are standing, and they're in good shape. They're special because of their colors. If you're looking behind me and saying, is that Amsterdam? The answer is no, it's West Baltimore, and they've looked like this. They've been painted these pastel colors for generations, maybe pretty early after they were built, certainly by the 1950s when a Hopkins professor, Phoebe Stanton, came and documented Poppleton and wrote specifically about the color of these houses. As a side, I know some of you had her as a professor, and many of you may credit her for your love of Baltimore and its architecture. The other thing, and maybe the third thing that makes these really special, is they've been occupied by African-American Baltimoreans from the very beginning. And we know from Dr. Hayward's research, we actually know a little bit about those folks. The 1880 census showed that there was a German shoemaker in one of them, and then the other 11 had African-American families. They were, according to the census, laborers, a hotel waiter, A coal cart driver probably got his coal at the B&O railroad yards nearby. A washerwoman, head of household, a female head of household. A brickyard worker, a hotel porter, and a dressmaker. And we know their names. They had names like Joseph Burke and Richard Bell, Mary Myers, George Queen, Elizabeth Hasten. And we even know that the kids in this block, the families that had school-age kids, their kids went to school. So these were working-class Baltimoreans, maybe even upwardly mobile Baltimoreans, were trying to get a good start for their families. Which brings us to 2004, which is when we started to get involved, first got involved 17 years ago, working with the neighbors here to try to prevent the city from demolishing it. Back then, the city had teamed up with a developer out of New York to clear a number of blocks with the hope that someday there would be new construction built here. The development proposal went all the way down to the Edgar Allan Poe house, about 6 or 7 blocks from here. But I'm not going to talk about what we're doing today. I'm going to turn it over to Krista Green, who's the chair of Baltimore Heritage's board of directors, to talk about what's going on right now. Krista, we're all yours.
Thanks, Johns, and thank you to everyone who is part of this effort to save this section of the Poppleton community, including Sonia Eaddy, a longtime resident who has been in this fight to save her wonderfully restored home for 20 years, and all of her neighbors, and Professor Nicole King of UMBC for her hard work and support. Johns mentioned that one of the things we have in Baltimore that makes us special are alley houses. Other cities may have them, but here ours are built into the fabric of our neighborhoods. Back in 1870, when this row on Sarah Ann Street was built, the houses provided an affordable place to live for working class people. And they're still doing that today, providing affordable housing for Baltimore's residents. Many of them have been here for 20 or 30 or more years. Residents like these are also what makes Baltimore special. The result is a city of neighborhoods with people that care about where they live. Here on Sarah Ann Street and neighboring Carrollton Street, the neighbors have been taking wonderful care of their houses. They've reclaimed the small park out front from urban decay. They've worked hard to make this part of Poppleton their place. It doesn't seem right to force them out, to demolish their historic homes. Can we build new housing for the residents of Poppleton? Absolutely. But we must find a way to do it that doesn't evict the neighborhood's long-standing residents and destroy their irreplaceable homes. Baltimore Heritage supports the families here in Poppleton. We're telling the city no to this intentional displacement and demolition. If you'd like to join us and the community in saying no, please use the links that follow this video. On behalf of the Poppleton community and Baltimore Heritage, thank you for being one of the voices.
Hi, my name is Sonia Eaddy, and I am a resident of the Poppleton community, and I'm standing here on Sarah Ann and Carlton Avenue asking you if you could come out and however you can support us in our fight to preserve and protect our homes on Sarah Ann and Carlton Avenue. These houses here are historic homes built in the 1800s, and we would love to have our neighborhood preserved and protected, rehabbed, if all possible, for home ownership and for people to continue to live in this neighborhood.
Hi, my name is Angela Banks. We've lived here in this community for over 30 years. Poppleton is just not a community, it's a home. We've raised our children here. Everybody has become one big home. So now we're asking you for your support, because we are you and you are us, because one day you're going to be in this situation and we're going to be supporting you. So come out and support us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Vanessa. I lived in this neighborhood for 10 years. We love our neighborhood. Save our homes. We love this block. I want to stay here.